Hello, this is Robert Polenick, the owner of Brutal Iron Gym. I'm here for a video to show how to use a piece of equipment called a hip circle. So this is the hip circle. It's basically a band we're going to place around our knees and allows us to work our hips, kind of get them warmed up for a workout and or kind of work on them if they're a weak spot on the body. So basically what you want to do with the hip circle is slide on both feet, and it comes up to right above the knees. So what this does is now the movements we're going to make, it basically has to pull from the hip muscles in order to create the movement. So by having it above the knees, it takes out any kind of involvement of the knee joint. So that way you're not getting any kind of loss of tension in the knee joint, and it's also not going to cause any annoyance to the knee joint as well. So it is important to have it above the knees. So the first exercise we're going to do with this is called a side shuffle. So what this is basically going to have lateral movements. So that way it kind of warms up the hips and get the body moving. So in this position, how you want to kind of find your position to do the exercise is you want to take the width of a normal squat for you. So which is usually just outside of your hips. So this will be straight down from my hips. I want to step out a little bit from there. And that's probably a pretty good place to start from. So the second thing we want to do is once we have our width, we want to go ahead and straighten our feet. So you want to have your feet pointing straight ahead. What this does is it allows us to have a little more emphasis on the outside of the hips, and it prevents some other muscles from getting involved. So the last thing we want to do is find our position with our body. So we want to bend at the hips and the knees. And usually if you bend down to where your arms being relaxed, it makes the fingertips about the top of the kneecaps. That's correct. So you can see from the front view, this would be my position. And then from the side view, I'll go through the same protocol. So I'll create my squat width, have my feet straight, bend at the knees and the hips. So that way the fingertips touch the top of my kneecap. And you can see my back is relatively straight. I don't want to have a hunched over position. And also while I'm doing the movements, I don't want to raise up. So you always want to make sure that in that relaxed arm position, your fingertips come to about the top of your knees. So this first exercise is side shuffle. We want to go ahead and get into position. And then what I'll do is I'll take 10 lateral steps to my right, 10 lateral steps to my left. In general, each step should take about 6 to 12 inches. The goal of this exercise is not to cover as much ground as possible, but rather to keep tension on the muscles. If you take too big of steps, the muscles will get to relax in between each step, and it actually makes it easier and less effective. So again, each step should only take about 6 to 12 inches. It's actually a relatively short amount of ground you're going to cover. I usually tell clients about 10 steps and 10 feet. Okay, so I'll go ahead and show the exercise. So get into position, take my lateral steps. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I check my position again, make sure I'm in the right position, the right depth. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Again, I ended in the right position, so that kept me right in the muscles. That's what I was trying to work. So that's our side shuffle. Next we have an exercise called in and outs. So in this exercise, again, I assume the position I want to have. Feet shoulder width apart, also pointing straight ahead. I want to have my knees and hips bent to where my fingertips fall lightly about the top of my kneecaps. In this position, I want to go ahead and let my knees fall inward. Then I'm going to pull back out, keeping my knees right over top of my heels. I'm not trying to push my knees any further outward. That would involve other muscles than what we want. Also, when I'm doing this exercise, I want to make sure my feet stay nice and flat on the ground. I don't want my feet to rotate upwards. So if that does happen, it involves other muscles and it lessens the tension on our outside of our hips. So what you can do to prevent that is try to grab the floor with your toes, and that'll keep your feet more planted into the ground so they won't rotate upward. So again, this is kind of the pace. We just have them fall inward, we pull back out, and we're looking for about 10 reps. So the last exercise we have is squats. So in this one we can go ahead and let our feet point outward. So that allows to create, it reduces the torque in our knees. So when we're squatting, we're not aggravating our knees. So in this position, we just take a normal squat position. I want to squat up and down, kind of like as I normally would if the bar was on my back. So you can see from the side, I'm trying to keep a nice flat back when I'm doing this. So again, I don't want to be hunched over or in any bad positions. So those are the 3 exercises we have with the hip circle. We have our side steps, side shuffles. So 10 steps to the right, 10 steps to the left, covering about 10 feet. Then we have our in and outs, which is letting our knees fall inward, and we pull them back out using our hip muscles. Then the last thing we have is bodyweight squats. There you go.